What up, Cavs Nation? I'm your host, Ethan Sands, and I'm back with another episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. And joining me today, the ball knower himself, Jimmy Watkins, cleveland.com columnist, and we are going to get into a topic that only ball knowers can dissect. And Jimmy, obviously, the 2025-2026 NBA season is right around the corner. Training camp, as we've mentioned on recent podcasts, is nearing on the horizon as well. So I'm getting a little bit restless. And the way that I handle my restlessness is looking back into the past. And the reason that this came to mind for a podcast topic is that John Wall retired. John Wall is one of the most electric players to ever grace the game of basketball with his premier speed and flashiness, a player whose high school mixtape is still etched in basketball lore. But that's not ultimately how his career is defined. Obviously, there were injuries and all these different things, but his story is as much about brilliance as it is about the unforgiving realities of the NBA. So I don't want to talk about those. I want to talk about his glory days. And not just his glory days, but hoop mixtapes as a whole. I don't know about you, Jimmy, but back in the day, all I can wait for when I was in elementary, middle school, high school was the next Ball is Life hoops mixtape to drop on YouTube. It doesn't matter how grainy the pixels were. It didn't matter how long the video was, or in these cases, how short they were. But I was ready to see who was going to be next to drop their next mixtape and who was going to have the best one as of yet. And I know we've already prefaced this, Jimmy. We talked about this a little bit behind the scenes, but we're going to go into our top 5 high school basketball mixtapes of all time. We've talked a lot about the video game aspect of this. We talked a lot about how these guys translated their game to the NBA in previous podcasts. But I think the hoop mixtape era is a disappearing art, right? Because of now high school prospects are able to pay for these platforms to come and show up and record and post their games, rather than when Ball is Light walked into the gym in high school, or Hoops Mixtape walked into the gym, you knew it was going to be a movie. There wasn't these mic'd up players or anything like that. It was just go out there and do what you do. And if it gets caught on camera, so be it. But Jimmy, I want to just get your thoughts before we dive into all of this about the Hoop Mixtape era, how this affected your life, and just the excitement that you have around basketball coming back in just a few weeks.
I mean, I spent hours around friends' laptops. Like, not even everyone has a chair. Like, someone's got a chair, maybe 2 people have a chair, and then you're like standing behind them and you're all like it's like you're at the game. You're all shaking each other after every highlight. In my opinion, the grainier the mixtape, the better. It's like you're seeing something you shouldn't. It's got a real, like, I don't know, this was recorded on a cell phone kind of feel to it. Someone who was actually there. This is like a real home movie. Whereas today, I was looking at, as I was watching, because I was at Browns today, but in between, when I was procrastinating, I was watching a bunch of mixtapes, old and new, just to like get a feel, because I wanted to put some time in. And the newer ones, yeah, they're clearer, they're better edited, but I kind of don't like that. Like the word mixtape conjures a feeling of you threw something. It's like, I mean, the original mixtapes are like you burn a CD, and it's a bunch of songs that another staple of my high school. I still have a bunch of burned CDs that I don't even know what to do with. I tried to play them on my PS4 recently, and they don't even do that. But it's just like this is a token of a different era. And I feel like today we're getting high school hoop albums instead of high school hoop mixtapes or high school hoop EPs, right? Like they're very produced. And to your point about like if you're mic'd up, that's so lame. That's so lame. There's no authenticity to it. Like I see now we take it a step further. We have people in like men's league trying to make mixtapes for content purposes, and it's just like you could not be more cringe right now. right? Whereas like you go up, you watch Austin Rivers' old mixtape, it's just like him looking at the camera and saying something like, I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna go off right now. And it's like, hell yeah, let's go. I have so much love in my heart for these. Another thing I would say is that I feel like it's a lost art in that there's like I don't know, you're losing this sense of an era. I was looking for the Thompson twins because I was like, oh man, I bet theirs was insane. And I see a lot of them as like eighth graders and high schoolers, but then they went to Overtime Elite, and now Overtime Elite's cutting their highlights. And I just feel like, if I could probably I'd probably have a better chance finding them on TikTok. They'd probably post in their own highlights. The way Hoop Mixtape or Ball is Life had like a sort of monopoly on this kind of content. I love that because it was easier to go, I've found Seventh Woods' mixtape all over here. They've just posted John Walls and Brandon Diggs. Like, easier to go on a rabbit hole, easier to find these. And I feel like, so my list is going to be, just as a preview, mostly old school guys, maybe, depending on how you feel about one of them, a newer guy. And I would like to say I'm mostly looking for guards. I'm looking for handles. And when someone jumps high, I want to notice it. Like Ben Simmons, incredible high school basketball player. You're just bullying people smaller than you. And your handles are great. Another guy who just retired, sort of. I'm not sure if Ben Simmons actually retired or not, but like, is that a retirement or did you get booted? I'm not sure. And his handles for his size are great, but it's not impressive to me. It's way more impressive for me to watch Akil Carr dunk. If you guys don't know who Akil Carr is, you should probably pause this podcast right now. He has some of the greatest highlights you'll ever see on the internet. Then Ben Simmons crossing someone over. Like, I'm just outlining my taste for you at the start here.
I feel like we have a very similar taste when it comes to hoop mixtapes, because I think all but one of my players on my top 5 list is considered a guard. And then I do have honorable mentions because I think there are bigger players that you simply cannot ignore. Just to be frank, Ben Simmons is not on my list. But also, to your point, Jimmy, about like content creators or basketball hoops content creators nowadays, sometimes I walk into like an LA Fitness or something, and there'll be cameras or somebody with a cameraman there at the gym. And I'm like, okay, I know who I'm going at immediately.
But I tell you, this happened. I was playing outside. Maybe a month and a half ago, and these two dudes pulled up. Not only it's one thing, I have gotten over the shock. I still don't like it. I've gotten over the shock of kids like recording every pickup game they're in and like setting their phones along the wall. I think that's strange as hell, but I've gotten over it. These dudes were wearing lav mics on their jerseys. Okay, even that, like, all right, you must be. They told one of the dudes was really tall, and he was telling me when he played D1, me and my boys beat them. Just like, you gotta be good. You gotta be good if you're gonna do that stuff. I was just thoroughly unimpressed. I don't even know how they're gonna edit that content together and make it look good. And I mean, maybe is there a bad batch? Do you have to play like 5 games to put together a compilation? These dudes were not very good.
I don't know how people are doing this nowadays, but kudos to them. Some of them are making money off of it, like off TikTok and stuff. I know, even away from the basketball sphere, but like baseball and softball, or like slow pitch softball, even like some people are playing with meta glasses that allow you to record everything that's going on while you're playing. That's kind of cool, but still also like, come on.
Actually, I don't mind. Like, I'm oddly like entranced by a cut up. I've seen those. It's like a guy playing third base and getting a bunch of hard hit balls and how he fields them. I kind of like it, but I can promise you, if I was playing in a softball league and I saw that guy, I'd be like, I'm trying to bean this dude. I'm trying to hit him with a baseball.
Just like in basketball, if you see somebody that you know is getting recorded, I'm trying to get a clip, and it's not going to be good for you. But let's get back to these high school basketball hoop mixtapes. And while we're on the topic of just mixtapes in general, I think we all have to admit the best overall mixtape of all time is West Virginia Tavon Austin football mixtape. That's why we have to specify that these are basketball and high school mixtapes. Could be any year, whatever.
Tavon Austin's fast. His mixtape, turn on some Reggie Bush highlights. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I mean, yes, of course. But I'm saying the iconic song in the background for Tavon Austin.
I get it. It's the most prominent of all time. I don't know that it's the best.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. But like, that's also part of mixtapes, is it not? Like the music being put behind it, the editing that's in it, especially as we talk about these old school mixtapes, Jimmy. Like, who was editing these? Like, not some guy that's working at ESPN now, right? Like, it's a guy on his laptop at the game, literally editing and putting it together at the same time. So, anyway, want to get to these honorable mentions that I have. Zion Williamson. Zion is one of those players that was too big for his own good at the high school level, but some of the dunks that are on his high school mixtape are simply insane. Another player who still just has the athleticism to jump out of the gym, Dennis Smith Jr., and also a point for our news NBA guys. Dennis Smith Jr. just signed a 1-year deal to return to the Dallas Mavericks today on the time that we're recording this podcast on Thursday, September 18th. And my two other honorable mentions are getting kind of closer to what we're looking for this top 5 list. I have Sharif Cooper, who is one of the most smooth basketball players, played alongside Isaac Okoro at McEachern High School, and also had immense success at the national and AAU level. And then the Cleveland Cavaliers' own Lonzo Ball. Chino Hill's mixtape was phenomenal, especially his senior season. Those are my 4 honorable mentions before we get into my top 5 list. Jimmy, do you have any honorable mentions to add?
I'd throw Andrew Wiggins in. Unbelievable dunks, unbelievable verticals. I mostly don't care for hoop mixtape clips where you're just throwing an alley-oop to yourself in warm-ups. No. To watch 16 through 18-year-old Andrew Wiggins leap, period, is art. One of the most hyped, I feel like if you weren't there, you don't know, one of the most hyped recruits of all time. I mean, honestly, based on what was behind him, pretty disappointing NBA career. He had a nice moment with the Warriors as like their second best player during the 2022 title, but never lived up to anything. I mean, forget number 1 pick. When Wiggins was in high school, man, like we were talking LeBron. We do this too often. We're always looking for the next whoever the best player is. We were really talking about it. Him and Jabari Parker too. Sports Illustrated had the cover. Jabari Parker was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Asking the question, is this the next LeBron? Like, these things really happened. I want to give a shout out to Jabari Parker in general, who would have had a really nice NBA career had he not had all the knee injuries. But Andrew Wiggins, I'm still actually debating between my 5th guy as we sit here. Okay, so I think my honorable mention is going to be Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers just has a great mix of everything. Austin Rivers is super cool. Now a podcaster, shout out. But just a super cool mix of good dunks and crowd interaction and some float games, some crosses. There's just a lot of good stuff on Austin Rivers' hoop mixtape. So I'll throw him in there as well.
All right. Now let's get into these top 5. And Jimmy, I'm definitely surprised you have Austin Rivers on honorable mention. He is in my list. He's not in the 5th spot, but we'll get to him in a little bit. My number 5 spot, simply because of age when this came out, 7th Woods, 14 years old when his best high school mixtape came out. It has, to date, 16 million views on YouTube. This dude, at 14 years old, was putting seniors in the rim. He was crossing them up, and he was making it look simple while doing it. I think 7th Woods obviously didn't pan out the way that he might have wanted it to, but had, as the youngest player on this list, had one of the best high school mixtapes of all time. He's in my top 5 with the top 5 spot.
Too low. 7th Woods is number 2 on my list. He's not only is he 14, looking like a man amongst boys. One of my favorite things, I meant to mention this on the top. One of my favorite things about hoop mixtapes, another reason they're getting worse, is that all the great high school players now go to all these academies where they play against other great high school players. What makes a great hoop mixtape is when a future superstar is playing against seventh period dudes. Some dudes who are gonna be accountants very soon, and they run into an NBA-esque athlete. Seventh Wood's not an NBA-esque basketball player. Actually, when I was watching this earlier today, I was looking at his like crossover in some of these videos, and I'm just like, well, that handle is loose as hell. I know you're 14, but like that's getting picked. That's getting picked in a couple of years for sure. But I mean, the bounce, the power with which he was dunking at 14. Again, there's can't overstate the fact that just the randos that he's playing with in some of these clips, it makes it so much more enjoyable. They have no chance. It increases the ceiling of your highlights. If you want to make the argument that it's quote unquote less impressive that he's hooping against these kids who are going to go pro some other than sports, fine. It's more entertaining to me. And I think the fact that Seventh Woods was a total bust as a recruit adds to the lore. Like, I really think you can make the case that Seventh Woods' recruiting rating was artificially inflated by this video, this 4 or 5 minute video that existed on YouTube.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. It's not even 4 or 5 minutes. It's 2.5 minutes.
There you go. There you go. That's like, it's like 160 seconds, 150 seconds of footage that got this guy a full ride scholarship to North Carolina. And the dude never scored more than 5 points per game in college, even after transferring to South Carolina. It's a thing of beauty. Seventh Woods is one of the faces of hoop mixtape.
Well, Jimmy, even when he transferred to Morgan State after transferring from South Carolina, he averaged 4.7 points a game. So, to your point, I just
But
think
NIL deals were crazy, though.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine some of these guys with NIL? Like, that would be insane. Like, that to me, I think they had to wait a little bit because the stardom of some of these players was simply through the roof. Obviously, we're going to get through this list, and there are some guys on my list that automatically would have had NIL. Obviously, we mentioned Austin Rivers. Now I'm just going to get into this. He's my number 4 spot for this list because for me, what makes a great hoop mixtape is the music, the editing, interactions with the fans, and also just how you showcase your abilities, right? And whatever that is, whether that's shooting, whether that's dunking, whether that's dribbling, he was doing it all, right? And obviously you knew the Rivers last name, so the pressure behind it, and he was not shying away from any of that. Jimmy, you quoted one of the famous lines from the beginning of his mixtape, like, I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna go off right now. And then also, even before that, in his mixtape, he says, "Showtime, baby." Like, you understand how much confidence you had to have knowing your father is Doc Rivers and still being able to put on a show on a nightly basis. Also, since I'm giving the stats on these YouTube videos from 14 years ago, Austin Rivers mixtape now has 1.6 million views. Obviously, much less than Seventh Woods video because he was a 14-year-old. But Austin Rivers does, in my book, have a top 5 hoop mixtape of all time. Who's your number 4 spot, Jimmy?
I think I don't even know if I get my number 5. I'll get 2 real quick. My number 4, this one will be very controversial. John Wall. I have John Wall 4th. I think the John Wall mixtape's overrated. It's just power dunks and what else?
360 lays.
That's cool. I saw him do it in the NBA. I don't know. I am a little bit desensitized to the John Wall mixtape. Of course, he's an insane athlete. Of course, he's a super fun basketball player to watch. I just think some of these, I had more fun watching some of these other ones. He's in my top 5, by the way. I didn't make him in top. He's an honorable mention or anything. Top 4 even. But I think Seventh Woods, due to the lore, the nobodies that he's playing with, is more than impressive. We'll get to my number 1 and number 3. I also have my number 5, Brandon Jennings, way ahead of his time. The thing about Brandon Jennings that is innovative with the hoop mixtape, the man is just splashing threes from 30 feet away in every other clip. And this was mid 2000s when he was in high school, like, or maybe mid 2000, early 2010s, late 2000s. This was before Steph, before every kid at the gym was trying to shoot 30-foot threes. Brandon Jennings put him in his mixtape. And there's not a ton, you look across most of these, not a ton of jump shots going at these. There's a lot of crossovers and dunks. Brandon Jennings he's a lefty, so it's aesthetically pleasing. I always liked the rhythm to his jumper. I always liked his game aesthetically. You go back, he's got the dunks, he's got the passes. He has a crazy, like, Spider-Man extendo arm scoop shot that I don't know how he gets it off at about the 3-minute mark or something like that. And he was a small player in the NBA, but you could see in high school, like, shorter than all these dudes. I give huge points to the small dudes because I think that's just so much fun to watch them cook.
Well, I'm going to just say that since we're already kind of spoiling some of our lists, John Wall is number 2 on my list just because of how much notoriety he gained from that. And obviously going to Kentucky and becoming the guy when you first get there, being a major portion of how Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, became the player that he is from watching John Wall and his work ethic. Like, to see somebody so hungry at that age and also just knowing on a nightly basis whatever John Wall was going to do, it was going to be a show. I think that's also a part of it. And he has almost 4 minutes of content on YouTube. And 16 years ago, this video was published, but it now has 10 million views on the tube. And I just think he's one of the best high school mixtapes of all time. He's not my number one.
He's one of the best high school players of all time. But I think his NBA highlights are better than his high school highlights.
Isn't that crazy, though? Because he was doing the same thing in the NBA that he was doing in high school. Like, sorry, it didn't matter, is to Jimmy's point, it didn't matter if you were playing some of the top prospects in high school or some guys that were about to go to gym class. Like, he was doing against NBA players, against players that were getting paid more money than him. And we can have a whole different podcast or a debate about who was the best point guard in the NBA when John Wall first got there with the Wizards. His first 3-4 years, there's an argument for John Wall was a top 3 point guard in the league, right? So, and I don't want to hear no flack on that. That's just a fact. But we can talk about it too. But I just think John Wall's mixtape has to be up there. One, because of his success in the NBA, but also because of just his competition level and what he was able to do on a nightly basis. But going into my number 3 spot, this might be a little bit of a surprise. This one, the editing took me away when I first watched it because it felt like every crossover was mixed in or hit with the beat. It felt like every time a player hit the floor because he was getting dropped by this player, it was on beat. It was so aesthetically pleasing, but it was still a little bit old school at this point in my lifetime. Marcus Levette, a player who ended up going to St. John's over Memphis, Illinois, DePaul, Pittsburgh, UNLV, Kansas, and San Diego State. This is a guy who looked like if you were going up against him defensively, you were going to have a horrible night because you were going to end up with either a hand on the floor, 2 knees on the floor, or something was in the floor that night because he was going to put you in a spin cycle, a crossover, or go in between your legs before Trae Young made it popular. I just think this guy had some of the best handles in high school, and his mixtape is always going to be one of my favorites. That's why it's in my top 3. It got posted 12 years ago and is up to 9 million views on YouTube.
Not on my list, but a great choice. Number 3, Zion for me. This is my one big guy exception. Another dude that he just levitates, man. And for him in particular, him playing against some of these South Carolina private school kids, there's a famous clip of Zion standing next to like the doofy looking white kid. The entertainment value on that stuff, like just have the kids in the background, the crowd shots for Zion, where they're like, what are we, is that an alien? Is that an alien that just did that? I just think that it's another reminder, like this guy's NBA career is so depressing. The injuries are so depressing because what he what he could have been, what he was athletically at his peak. I really don't think we have ever seen it before. The strength, the power, the quick twitch combined with those things at his size, the way he could move. He was a great passer. His brand of power dunking is a completely different level for me. And he's like, I feel like he's one of like the last bastions, like around his draft class. We start getting a little bit more professionalized, but his still feels like it's got the old classic feel to it. And my God, what an athlete. He's one of the best jumpers I've ever seen. The force with which he dunks everything is unbelievable. And these kids just don't have a chance. It's awesome.
Except for that one kid that wanted to guard Zion. While you were talking to Jimmy, I was trying to figure out what that dude's name was. And I can't pull it up right now, but I owe him all the respect in the world. I don't know who the hell that kid was, but willingly guarding Zion in high school while Zion was the number one player in the country. Takes some big cojones, and he's got him. So good on him. But the only reason Zion is not in my top 5 is because I am not putting a big guy in my top 5 based on just who I liked watching. But you said it perfectly, Jimmy. Levitating, floating. He's literally doing 360 windmills, and it feels like he's in the air forever. But we both given our number 2 selections already. I had John Wall. I want to get into this number 1 pick. And Jimmy, I have a feeling we have the same person. So I'm going to let you go first because I would talk for hours about this mixtape just because of where I'm from. And we'll get into that in a little bit.
It's not close. It's Akil Carr. He's 5'6". He can dunk. Maybe the greatest high school mixtape moment of all time is when Akil Carr is running on a someone else has a fast break. Akil Carr's trailing the play. They pass it to the biggest dude on the court, and Akil Carr two hand packs that shit off the glass. He packs it off the glass, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Everything he does is amazing, independent of being 5'6" tall. Independent of it, but the fact that he is 5'6" tall makes it even better. The ball handling is, it will break your brain. The quickness with which this guy can change directions, the different moves. He's hot sauce in a smaller package. Seriously, my friends and I followed this man's high school recruitment like he was going to our alma mater. I could not wait for Akil Carr. He never really made it to the D1 stage. He had like brief cups of coffee with G League teams, which I would pay decent money to find those highlights on the internet with the Delaware 87ers and the Canton Charge. I didn't know, in my own backyard, I could have watched Akil Carr play basketball. I don't know what kind of tick he was getting, but just one of the most entertaining highlight reels in any sport you will ever see. It's below the rim. It's above the rim. There are a wake of bodies. There is a pile of bodies in this man's wake at every time he dribbles up the court. People are falling left and right. Your eye is like a tennis match on crack. Your eyes can't keep up with the ball. He's the best at this. Any conversation that I hear people talking about high school mixtapes, I say his name. He's the best.
Jimmy said it beautifully there, and I cannot get enough of talking about this mixtape. Personally, because I am from Baltimore, Maryland, his nickname is Crime Stopper because the crime in Baltimore would legitimately stop because they would be watching the basketball game, right? And I don't think you guys understand. Like all the movies where you guys see like all the basketball player, the football player, the star of whatever team, oh, you're good, don't mess with him, he's got a future, get out of the hood, blah, blah, blah. That was Akil Carr. Like Akil Carr was the man at Patterson High School, right? And understanding what he meant not only for the community, but what he meant solely for the state of Maryland, right? And for him, he obviously was initially committed to, I believe it was Seton Hall, and then ended up just going to play for the Delaware 87ers, as Jimmy had mentioned. I was never in the arena for these games, but you would hear about them miles and miles away, days after they happened, right? And you got the sense of, well, where can I watch it? Where can I see it? And then you would wait for this compilation to be put together because it was a beautiful spectacle of what true athleticism looks like. And as someone who was never tall, I was like, well, maybe I can play basketball because if he's 5'6" and dunking on 7-footers and pinning blocks two-handed against the backboard, maybe, just maybe, I have a shot doing so. Like, the motivation factor that he gave to youth generations of hoopers, it has to be steady, right? And to this day, he's still playing, trying to get a shot and all these things. But that video on YouTube, which was posted 13 years ago, has 10 million views on YouTube, right? And I don't even think that's indicative of how great it was at the time. And also, just if you watch the video, which I implore you to go do, go watch the video after this. Go watch all of these guys' videos afterwards. But first frame that you see of a Kill Car is him with his family on the doorstep of his house, right? Or his former house or whatever in the city. Coming from nothing or trying to build your family up is his story. Ball is life, hoops, mixtape, whoever. Like, you had to get it out of the mud. You couldn't pay for these people to come and show up to your game and get you the publicity that you needed. You had to earn it, right? And the Kill Car is the best hoops mixtape of all time, and he earned everything that he has. And I hope that he continues to thrive wherever he might be. But I just think this is clear cut. We have talked about how great all these other hoop mixtapes were. We talked about the honorable mentions. A Kill Car, hands down, 5'6", has the best hoop mixtape of all time.
Okay, can we just acknowledge, like, he's 5'6", he can dunk in these videos. Nate Robinson won the dunk contest basically for being 5'9". He missed 70 dunks, and we still gave Nate Robinson the dunk contest champ because he's small. Spud Webb, same deal. Impressive that they can do it. A Kill Car is 5'6". In high school, dunking. I also just looked up his Instagram today, easy follow, also followed by Drake. And I guess he's still playing some sort of basketball, as you allude to, Ethan. Like, I mean, I'm going to spend at least a half hour tonight seeing what he's up to now. If that's what he was doing in high school, what's he learned since then?
So, as we've mentioned, and as we kind of come full circle, NBA careers do not have to define legacies. They can help, obviously, and obviously financially, they do always help. But sometimes your legacy can be defined in high school. Some of these guys peaked in high school, right? And that's kind of the difference between where people's lives can go. John Wall didn't have the career that he wanted to because of injuries, because of trying to be the man in different places, even though that wasn't his role anymore. So still, I think looking back and just gaining excitement based on the past, but also getting excitement for the future season, for the 2025-2026 season, is important because there are highlights that circulate the NBA today that still are jaw-dropping, that are still keeping you captivated. And as much as we talked about on the last podcast that the NBA could be considered by Adam Silver to be a highlight-driven league, there's so much more to it than that, right? And one of my favorite highlights from Donovan Mitchell's career are some of his passes, going from corner to corner or zipping it from the wing to the corner, which barely anybody is capable of doing, and then finding the open man and that person knocking down the shot. It's not necessarily the ankle breakers or the dunk over Kristaps Porzingis, but small things that sometimes you miss. And I think that's important for everybody to understand. That box score watching can only be so fun. Actually tuning into these games, tuning into the WNBA playoffs is exciting as well. That's another way that I'm feeding my itch for hoops at this point in the summer, especially waiting for training camp and for the preseason to roll around come late this month, early next month.
I just had a thought as we're talking about this. Did Akil Carr contribute to this problem? Did Akil Carr plant the seed for Adam Silver to call the NBA a highlight league? Does Adam Silver know who Akil Carr is? Does he know ball to that level? Would be an interesting question. But I'm thinking like Hoop Mixtape definitely raised a generation of basketball highlight watchers instead of basketball, play-by-play followers, like watching a full game. Was this where it started? I don't know.
Maybe you're right, because I definitely grew my love for this game watching these highlights. But then I also wanted to go see these players in person. I also wanted to see what other parts of their game. And as you mentioned earlier, Jimmy, how do they stack up against other competition of their level? One of the best parts about Sharif Cooper's highlights is he was going up against some of these other NBA players now. Sharif Cooper was giving some of these players buckets. And Jimmy, you also mentioned, because we did have a more old school list, the new school guys, like the Boozer twins that are committed to Duke, going to be great because of their lineage and how they've dominated the high school stage, but also dominated in the AAU stage, winning national championships already, and also playing in FIBA and winning gold medals that way too. But you wouldn't know that if you only watched their highlights, right? You have to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more research. And I don't want this game to turn into a highlight-driven sport. One, because that means people are not going to want to read our articles as much, Jimmy, and I don't want that. Or listen to our podcast because they're like, oh, well, I can just go watch the highlights. No, because we go into more minutia and nuanced conversations that you only will understand if you watch the full length of these games.
I don't even know if that's necessarily true. I feel like the highlight league stuff, I feel like people consume a ton of basketball content and then they only need to see the highlights. And then people like us, or to a larger extent, the Ringer podcast, Verse, your Zach Lowe, your Bill Simses, your Hoop Collective guys over at ESPN, that's where they fill in the blanks. It's a strange ecosystem. And I wish more people would actually consume product for what it is, because it's awesome. If you really love if you love basketball to the extent where you're willing to watch all these highlights and you're willing to listen to all these podcasts, it's hard for me to square that you also aren't willing to sit down and watch 2 hours of the game, because there are so many cool nuances within the game that you don't see in the highlights. But that seems to be where we are, and I don't love it, but I'll take the views.
I'll take the views too, Jimmy, especially in the summertime when our views are feel like the NBA. They're dropping. I'm waiting for them for the regular season to come back and our numbers start to go back up and people start to tune in to us again so they get our Cavs and NBA takes, because as much as we want to tell you guys all about the Cavs, and we will be doing that during the regular season and throughout the playoffs, we do want to give you NBA content as well when it comes to this season, as the Eastern Conference is going to be a little shaky. Going to get more news on that. The Western Conference is going to be super competitive. You're going to get more news on that as well. So I know this is the summertime. I know you might not have even listened to this far into the podcast, but if you did, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for sticking with us throughout the summer, and get ready for a great season. We're still going to come to you 5 days a week, so don't miss anything. But with all that being said, that'll wrap up today's episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. But remember to become a Cavs Insider and interact with Chris, me, and Jimmy by subscribing to Subtext. You want to let us know what your top 5 is, or who you think has the best hoop mixtape of all time? Send it over to Subtext. Or let's argue. Let's talk about it. Or let me just praise my guy, Akil Carr, a little bit more. To do all of that, sign up for a 14-day free trial, or visit cleveland.com/Cavs and click on the blue bar at the top of the page. If you don't like it, that's fine. All you have to do is text the word STOP. It's easy. But we can tell you that the people who sign up Stick around, because this is the best way to get insider coverage on the Cavs from me, Chris, and Jimmy. This isn't just our podcast, it's your podcast. And the only way to have your voice heard is through subtext. Y'all be safe. We out.